Actress Vivica A. Fox did not hold her tongue when it came to Nick Cannon, announcing that he's now expecting his 10th child. As an analyst for the Fox Soul series Cocktails with Queens, Fox's main argument was that a strong father figure is needed for the foundation of Black families, and Cannon wasn't a good representation of that. Claudia Jordan was also a part of the panel and agreed with Fox, asking if he could really be there for all his children. Earlier this year, in an interview with Men's Health magazine, Cannon would defend having children with multiple women, saying, "Contrary to popular belief, I'm probably engaged throughout my children's day more often than the average adult can be." Today we have our Comedy Hype analyst, Yamanika Saunders, as well as Pierre, to talk about their thoughts and reactions. But first, let's take a look at this clip.
I don't like it. I don't. I mean, you know, y'all can be like, well, he got money, this, that, and the third, but the foundation of Black families, especially a strong father figure, is needed. This isn't a good representation of it, in my opinion. You know, children deserve a father figure, especially young boys. They need positive father figures, especially African-American, because they Black. And just providing a check. I've seen so many people that in the past have dated like athletes and gotten child support. What if he gets hurt? Things happen. But fatherhood deserves responsibility, accountability, and children need that in their lives.
Now, I know we've had this conversation a couple times on the show as well, but I want to start with you, Pierre, to get your reaction. Do you agree with Vivica's stance about Nick Cannon, or what are your thoughts on what she said?
Can men have babies?
Men cannot have babies.
They need partners. So why is it all this he? When there are women involved with that, they know he has other kids out there. Why do they want to be the person to have another kid by Nick Cannon? At what point do women say, hold on, bro, the only thing you wrapping up, nigga, is your turban, okay? Because obviously you raw dogging too much. So I don't just think it's got to be a Nick Cannon problem. What about these women who are just saying, I'm laying down, I'm going to have a kid with you. We know you're not going to be around. We've seen your history not knowing around, but you're not going to be in the household. Where's their responsibility at the end of the day? Because at the end of the day, a woman carries the load of the responsibility as far as having the baby, you know, because she can say no and have an abortion and it stops there. Well, she's the one that decides to go all the way with it. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, y'all just jumping on Nick. Yeah, what Nick is doing is wilding out. You know, that's what he's doing and stuff. He's having a lot of kids. He feels like it's okay. Well, you know, we can sit there back here and say, no, it ain't okay, but you know, we're not in that house, we're not in that whole situation. Yes, the ideal situation would be a father in the home. We get that. But life ain't ideal. Sometimes a father has to work a lot and he's never home. Sure, it won't be as much as Nick is gone, but it's not always everybody sits around and has dinner at the dinner table together and talks about how your day was. Families have changed. But it's very interesting how they kept talking about how he's responsible, him. And Nick, like Claudia Jordan said, come to the panic room. We can really sit down and have a good time. I remember when you was yay high. Holla at your boy.
And don't forget about Comedy Hype. But Yamanika, I'll kick it over to you. What's your reaction to, you know, what we heard the ladies talk about, and specifically with Vivica's stance about Nick Cannon?
I mean, it seemed to, you know, press her like on her spirit. And I know, you know, being here, sometimes we talk about things that we may not necessarily want to talk about. We are giving our opinion. And sometimes we're talking about people that we know, you know, it feels like she knows him, you know, everybody want to be respectful of him. For me, this whole Nick Cannon thing is whatever it is. And I think what I think is the saddest is, like, especially between Selena Johnson, right, and Vivica A. Fox sort of going back and forth about what Nick Cannon should and should not do. They're not even women that he would choose. Like, they're definitely not in the color pattern that he would choose. So I just think it's silly that Black women even involve themselves in this conversation around a man that's not choosing you, doesn't prefer you. And we need to stop letting this be a representation of what the Black community is doing, because this is not just a Black community. The women that he is with, they're part of other communities as well. Some of them are half Black, and they have other representations of culture that they need to add in. I know Pierre picked up, but what I'm saying is, to make it 100% a Black issue when the women that he's choosing are not 100% Black,
right?
But on their community too, the Asian part of them, the Hispanic part of them. That's what that is. He's not having babies with 100% Black women that's soul sisters out here doing that shit. So don't bring that energy and that heat. That's why I don't speak on it.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point when it comes to issues, right? Because as I mentioned, we talked about it on the show. We see a lot of platforms having this conversation as he was having, children. But it brings up the question, what is the real issue? Is it the amount of children that he's having, or is it the amount of women that's involved? Pierre, I'll start with you. What do you think?
No, because we're not talking about the women. We're talking about the kids. So it's the amount of kids that one man can have, and we feel like he don't have the time for those children. Conventionally, he probably doesn't have the time. He don't have a conventional job. And everyone got into this bed together, knew what his situation was. So I don't know what we're arguing about. If it's about that, him not having kids, then okay. I mean, having too many kids, okay. What's too many? At what point do we say a certain amount is too many for a man to have? Can one man have 10 kids in one household and it be okay? Or one who has spreads his seed around, we think it's not okay? What is it? Is it the amount of kids or the amount of women? Like you said, I think it's more amount of kids he's having that he can't be around. But
yeah.
So.
And I want to come back to that specifically, what you mentioned, because I think you make a great point. Yamanika, I want to get your thought on that first, though. When it comes to this conversation, a lot of people, they kind of get flustered about it. Do you think it's because he's having 10 children? We've seen Eddie Murphy and other people have, multiple children. Or do you think it's the amount of women that he's having these children with?
Well, I think it's a layered issue. And with all due respect to Pierre, this is why I try not to get into conversations that women have a certain perspective on versus men, because men sometimes are tone deaf and they definitely don't like to listen to women, which is also why I think it's crazy that, again, these women on the Queen's Court or that show, that they would even have a conversation about him and the likelihood that he would feel free to go on that show and talk to women about what's really going on from a woman's perspective versus going on someplace like a Drink Champs is night and day. Maybe now because they called him out, he'll go on, but we understand this is a layered issue. Not only is it about children, it is about race. It is about him as a Black man. It's about the women that he is choosing. It is about the women that their response. It is so layered and it's very complicated. On the surface, Nick Cannon can do whatever he wants. He's a human being. And like Pierre says, he is engaging with women who are also making the decision that whatever he is doing is okay for them. Let them do whatever they want to do. In terms of me being a Black woman and having commentary about what a Black man is doing with women who are not 100% Black, and if we're gonna act like we're just gonna go, why are we making such a big deal about it? Oh, it's love, it's love, it's love. I don't want to be in a conversation like that, because when we constantly see men making decisions like that, and then we have to turn a blind eye to whatever their preferences are or whoever they're choosing, and then when it becomes something negative with the choices that they've made and the type of women that they've chosen, they want to have their complaint with Black women. Don't have your complaint with Black women. He's not choosing 100% Black women. Go have your complaint with women of mixed race who are having children with him, and let that be the conversation over there. Because Black women are doing what we're doing over here, trying to survive and thrive.
Now, Yamanika, to your point about him not having children with Black people, we know that one of his mentors, and he's talked about it, is Dick Gregory. He considered him a mentor, and Dick Gregory was also big on having multiple children to prevent the Black genocide. But like you said, this is a little bit different than Dick Gregory. One, because Dick Gregory had 10 children with one woman, but here we see Nick Cannon having 10 children with multiple women of different races. So I'll come back and start with you, Yamanika, and then I want to come right back to you, Pierre. Understanding what Dick Gregory wanted to do to prevent Black genocide, do you think Nick Cannon is following in those footsteps, or do you think he's going against what Dick Gregory was trying to do, if that makes sense?
It all sounds great, right? To say that we are putting our stakes down, we are a martyr for something. We're here to move the dial forward. People do that a lot and attach it to the foolishness that they do because, it's for the greater good. I don't know. Nick Cannon has a lot of issues that he's talked about, health issues. I think he probably suffers from maybe, I don't know him, but maybe some sort of depression or anxiety from some of the health issues. I 100% believe that he is trying to move forward some legacy for himself and get an enclave of people around him that is a support system. Do I agree with how he's going about it? It's not for me to say, it's not my life. Would I do that? Probably not. Do I think that's a great example for the Black community that's already overly represented by children who don't have active fathers in the homes or have fathers who have multiple, children? Probably not. Let's not hang our cultural hat on Nick Cannon being the one moving forward. When we talk about Dick Gregory, Dick Gregory was very involved in social issues. He really hung his hat on certain things and understood what he was talking about. I think other than Nick Cannon wearing dashikis and talking about Dr. Sebi, we haven't really seen him sort of understand or stand on the things that he said as a Black man, because when he did make those very hard statements that he was checked by the white community on, he folded very quickly and made a lot of pivots and turns off of his platform. Right. So we all know Dick Gregory didn't stand for any foolishness and understood exactly where he stood when he made certain comments.
Right. Pierre, let me bring you in on that same question. When it comes to Dick Gregory, he had 10 children with one woman, but he said he was doing that to prevent the Black genocide. Being that Nick Cannon sees Dick Gregory as a mentor, do you think he's following in those footsteps? Or kind of stepping outside of that lane?
Well, I agree with Yamanika on the point, let's not hang our hats on some further in the Black culture because you busting off on so many women and moving on and everything. That's not the thing. When Dick Gregory did it, he was in his house. He had the kids around him. He was here to teach each kid how to roll a certain way in a household. What happens is we've seen in history when a father's not in a house, the children sometimes stray. They don't have the same capacity. Not every situation. So in the comment, my father wasn't around, and I still went to college, and I still made. Okay, we're talking statistically. Easy in the comments with it. Okay. So, but we've seen that when a father figure is not in the house on a daily basis or very much, weekly basis, and especially male kids, they stray around. They start trying to find father figures other places. Right. That ain't gonna help the Black community. Right. Well, Dick Gregory is different. He was talking about being in my house. I'm gonna raise these children this way. That's a difference than just having kids, 10 kids out all over the place doing whatever, because you might be putting out some mutants out there. Yeah. Okay, some foolishness if you ain't around. So I think it's totally different. So put the hat on, put the hat on, saying we're trying to move the Black culture around, genocide and all this kind of. Okay.
So let me ask you this, Pierre, because you said something earlier that triggered. When it comes to a man or just a family having multiple kids, sometimes, like you said, it can be hard to manage that whether you're in the household or outside of it. So places like China, they have a restriction on how many children that they can have. Do you think that should be a thing here, in the States where it's like there's a limit on how many children can be had within a household?
Do we know what the punishment is for having more kids? Do you know that?
I'm going to say no. I remember once upon a time hearing that it was, if they had children past that, then they would be
jailed or something like that?
Killed off. The
Yeah.
kids would be killed off at the hospital.
There's a lot of niggas out here being jailed or killed. If we did that thing, there'd be a lot of y'all. We don't want that. No, it wouldn't work. I agree with China. It's basically have the kids that you can, enough kids that you can handle around and raise in a thing I think of proper, being in their time in the space. Kids sometimes don't even care about the money. They don't. Sometimes you fellas, we give child support. We think we're doing our job. The kids don't even know about that money. Right. They don't know. They have none of that. They want to see daddy in the house. They want to see daddy. If you don't give no money, I know some women say, I don't care if the man don't give me no money as long as he sees his kid and takes care of his kid. Damn that money. Yeah. So it shows how important sometimes it is the father to be in the house or be around the kids. The mother needs some relief from raising that child sometimes, or she can't put the same energy as a man can into them children, even to a female. A female needs to sometimes see a father figure, so she don't run out to these dudes and stuff and look for them. So if you're not in the household that much, and Nick can do what he wants, I get it, but at the same token, he cannot be in a space that much. It's impossible to have women all over the place and say, I can be in everybody's space as much time I need. He's gonna put the time in that he thinks he needs, that he thinks is proper, and only time will tell. Down the road, if all those kids come up to be great kids and go to school and do all this kind of stuff, then maybe it'll work for him. We don't know, only time will tell.
Now, before we move forward, I do want to make sure I clarify your question earlier. So China actually previously fined anyone who had children past their requirement of 2, but now in recent years, they've actually scrapped that and they no longer get fined. So I just wanted to make sure I clarify that after looking that up.
So get your money together, fellas. Might be fined.
Yeah, Monique, let me bring that same question to you. What do you think? Do you think that we should adopt that, there should be a limit on how many children is within one household?
No, listen, I'm somebody that loves children, and I would have loved to have children and hoped maybe if I don't have my own to adopt. I, grew up in a family that had foster children and took care of it. I believe in having a safe space and a loving space for children. So there's a loving and safe space for these children. God bless that situation. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, good for them if those kids are taken care of and well adjusted. I don't think there needs to be a drastic thing like a limit. But I do, again, have to go back to my original point. A lot of times, and this is coming from as a Black woman, especially like an older Black woman, not old, older, is sometimes we get ourselves and up here, please put that cup down, because we all know you could be my daddy, okay?
Yes,
so now, okay, all right, okay. Now, I want Black women to, again, like, get out of go sit down, go relax, go get your nails done, get your hair done. A lot of times when we have conversations that are very hard and heavy in the Black community, there's a lot of responsibility that's put on Black women, and disproportionately over the last couple of years, and it's exhausting. This is not a conversation for Black women, like I said again, and this is not to put down any of the women that he's chosen. He's not choosing, these are not 100% Black women. You have to go over there. I know, Pierre, you're going to have a conversation because you're half white. It has nothing to do with and me trying to make it a race thing in that regard. Is that I see too many Black women, dark-skinned Black women. You know what I'm talking about. If we're not going to talk real here, then let's not talk at all. You know, there's comments from Black men about Black women being displaced, that you're too old, you're too fat, you're too Black, you're too that. Most of the women that fit in those categories are the ones that are going back and forth having a conversation about what Nick Cannon's doing and not doing. Mama, sit down and go worry about the men that are worried about you. Let Nick Cannon and whatever he's doing over there and that tribe that he's creating and his new biblical moment and movement, let that be amongst him and those women that they're doing. Hopefully there's a show that comes out of it, because you know we love watching the show. If Nick Cannon can get a show and all these 11, 8 women, 12 women, 13 women, 14 women, right, the cast will be bigger than the cast of Saturday Night Live.
I want to let Pierre chime in on that. Pierre,
okay, so I think the big picture is how many man has, how many kids he has. That's what I think it is. Because what would you say, since we're talking about color for you, Future?
No, not for me, Pierre. Okay.
What do you say about Future and all his kids with some Black women? Is that okay? Now, what would you put that energy? Okay, Future, who's a rapper, I don't know if you know what rapper, he has many children by many kids. They ain't all light-skinned and all that. There's some sisters. Let's talk about that then, since you want to talk about just the color of the woman. How do you feel about Future having all those kids?
Well, number one, I'm not just talking about the color of the woman. Again, you're being tone deaf. I'm telling Black women to sit down.
What about Future?
If anything, this is a benefit for you when I tell Black women to go sit down, because now you and all these Samuelites can go argue back and forth about what
Future. Let's talk about Future. His kids.
Talk about Future.
Well, I want to hear. I forgot what you said. What about Future and all the kids he has? How do you feel about him?
Who's not everybody's dogging Future? They're not even having
I want to hear from you, Yamanique. How do you
When
feel?
I say everybody, I'm included in that.
Well, so you dog Future for what? Having kids with
1,000.
Is he wrong?
You talk about with Future is not even being debated as nicely as it is with Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon is getting a lot of cool points from being a nice guy, Nickelodeon, wilding out. And all, me included, look at Future and go, that's a complete nonsense. And if Future wasn't a celebrity, we'd be talking crap about him even louder than what he's done. He's also left broken women. He's leaving broken homes. And then it's okay because he raps. And please, Pierre, don't ever act like I don't know what rap is, because every time I see you, I hear, whoa, okay? Earth, Wind, and Fire, please, nigga.
Earth, Wind, and Fire, damn.
Rap. Do I look like I don't know what rap?
I, Patra.
I knew you two were going to start somewhere. I just didn't know exactly where.
And before I leave, I want to make a statement of this. Nick Cannon, I don't think Nick Cannon is doing this maliciously, just trying to do it. He's young, maybe he doesn't have his mind right. He is thinking he's doing the right thing about providing for these people, these young kids. These kids. He's thinking he's just moving his legacy forward. Yes, we can sit back and say it's not right, but I don't think he's doing it maliciously and to be wrong and to be, you know what I'm saying? I just think he's just wilding out like his show is, and he's having a lot of kids. He's thinking this is the right thing. These women are accepting it, but at the end of the day, I don't think Nick Cannon is doing it to be dirty and foul and funky like that. I don't think he's doing it like that at all. He has money, so I think I can take care of my children for the rest of their lives. I think there's nothing wrong with that. We just debating and saying it don't work for us, and we don't think it's a good look.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's him.
Well, just like Claudia extended an invitation to Nick Cannon, here at Comedy Hype, we extend the invitation as well to have that conversation and be able to dissect and understand what's what and why are you wilding out as people.
And I want to have a conversation also, because y'all left me out of the fat shit with Aries Spears looking like he got several kidney problems. He needs to be in the active dialysis, running his mouth about Lizzo. And let me just be very clear but not Pierre, because Pierre and I, we just be around, but for the people in the comments, okay? Be very clear, because a lot of weeks my words get misconstrued. You niggas hear one thing and then you go hopping on the comments before you hear anything else. I also agree with Pierre. I don't think Nick Cannon is doing this to be malicious. He's already said he's trying to put his legacy out there. He knows he has health issues. We're talking about if it's a good look overall. At the end of the day, Nick Cannon can do whatever he wants to do. What I am telling Black women, as just the same thing I would say about the Aries Spears thing when it comes to big women, there is a certain point, to be honest, in the Black community, when Black women, and the minute you say something, you are going to be dogged if you are over a certain weight, a certain age. If you have too many children, Black men are instantly going to start punching down on you and trashing you. That's why I'm telling Black women, whenever you find the space to just go somewhere and sit down and let these niggas handle their own shit, let them handle their own shit. Sit down.
If we sat down, we wouldn't have Comedy Hype News. Damn that, we're going to talk about it.
Well, I appreciate y'all for getting through the conversation. Y'all wait to the end to give me the heart. No, but I absolutely love it. I appreciate both of you for chiming in on this topic. Now, before we head out, y'all are funny here, so I got to let people know where to go to see you more funny. Yamanika, I'll start with you. What do you have coming up, and how can people follow you?
Yes, well, I should have had my calendar. I got so concerned about Nick Cannon having more kids that I put my phone down. I am this week. I'm for sure. I know I'm in New York City. I've been on the road the last couple of weeks. Just been running busy. But if you want to see me, come see me at the Comedy Cellar in New York City. And hopefully soon I'll be, sitting with Pierre somewhere. Hopefully we're trying to make that happen. Because let me tell you something. I love coming here week after week. Stephanie, I enjoy you, John, everybody behind the scenes. But sitting down with Pierre, it's just, I watch this even when I'm not on. I watch it to hear Pierre's commentary. So I'm always grateful just to be here.
That's awesome. And how can people follow you?
At Yamanika or at not Nick Cannon's baby mama, because
Hell
I'm too old and fat.com.
Pierre, what do you have coming up? And how can people follow you?
I really don't mind following me. Y'all niggas been following me too much. Y'all been talking. No, but it's Comic Pierre on social media. Love y'all. I will be this Saturday, which will be September 3rd. I'll be in Jacksonville, Florida, at the Atlantis on Arlington Road. Come to the Atlantis, Arlington Road, this Saturday, September 3rd. I'll be in the place to be. Don't forget, always watch my, if you can, watch my Panic Room and check me out on here, man. It is what it is, y'all. I got great guests. We got Jackie Long this week, man. My man, actor Jackie Long, funny.
Super exciting. Well, congratulations to you both. And again, thank you both for chiming in on this topic. You heard from us, and I want to hear from you in the comments below. What are your thoughts of Vivica A. Fox calling out Nick Cannon for having his 10th child? For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson.
Don't forget, put it in the comments. Let's start it off with Pierre, and I'll read it.
Do you know the comedy culture? Play Comedy Hype, the game. Out now.